As you can see from the title of this episode, it is time for us to add else functionality to our while and our for loops. Let's check it out. Here you can see I have a basic, simple little program where we set a variable named counter to 1, and then we create our while loop. While the counter is less than 5, we're going to print it and add 1 to it. Else. Notice we now have an else statement, and we're going to print the else has been triggered and the counter equals what that counter's value is, and then the program's going to end by printing program end. So remember, it's always fun to think about exactly what's going to happen here. And what I think is going to happen is it's going to print the value of 1, the initial counter value, and then it's going to print the counter value of 2, 3, and 4, and then the else will be triggered, and I believe it's going to say counter equals 5, and then the program will end. Let's check it out. We run it. 1, 2, 3, 4, else triggered, counter equals 5, and the program ends. So sure enough, this while else functionality works just like you think that it would. Okay, now let's see something. What if we never enter the while loop? In other words, what if this evaluation is false? I think what's going to happen is we're still going to have the else triggered. Yeah, I think the else will always be triggered, even if we don't enter the loop. So let's check this out. Let's do a trial of this. And what we'll do is we'll just say, look, the counter is 1, but the while loop is false. So we are not going to execute, or I should say Python will not execute this print instruction here or the incrementing. I think what's going to happen here is it's going to jump immediately to the else, and it's going to say the else is triggered, the counter is 1, and the program's going to end. Let's check it out. We'll run this module and look at that. The else got triggered, the counter is 1, and the program ends. So notice whatever we have in that else clause, that's going to be executed exactly once, whether or not we enter the loop or not. Now let's check this out, shall we, for the for loop functionality. So sure enough, I've got a little for else example. For counter in range 5, print the counter, else, print else triggered, counter at, and then program end. So what should we see here? Well, I'm thinking we'll see 0 printed, 1 printed, 2 printed, 3 printed, 4 printed, and then it's going to trigger the else. And you're going to notice something interesting here when we run this module, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like we expected. But one thing happens a little strange here compared to the while loop, and that is notice our counter's still at 4. Yeah, interesting. So that works a little differently, doesn't it? Yeah, we start at 0, we go up to 4, and the counter retains that value of 4 inside of the else clause. So just a little bit of, difference there in the else execution with a counter value. Now, what about if this is false? Well, sure enough, as we've proven to you, the else will still trigger. Let me ultimately prove that to you here by showing you an example where I set the counter to 100 and then I make sure the for loop never executes. How do I do that? Well, I give a crazy range. I say start at 2 and go up to 1. So this will never execute. And I think what we're going to get is just the else triggering with the counter stuck at 100. Let's go ahead and run this and see if that's true. And that's exactly what happens. So we can use else clauses, as you saw, with our for and our while loops. That's right. And remember, what is in that else clause will execute exactly once, regardless of whether we actually do the iterations of the for or the while loops. Thanks so much for watching.